Welcome to the Worship Keys YouTube channel. My name is Carson Bruce. So glad you're here. We talk all things music theory, gear, industry, and ministry for your worship keys playing. If this episode is beneficial for you or you have any questions as you continue to watch, feel free to comment below, and I'd love to hear any feedback that you have along the way. So let's get into today's episode. I'm with Alex Smith. Alex, all the way from Georgia.
That's right.
And we're in Knoxville, Tennessee right now, recording this at Foothills Church. But Alex, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
We are thrilled to welcome you to the Worship Keys fam. You've been able to add a lot of value recently to the Worship Keys community online, which is awesome. And so we have a lot of great content to cover today, guys. So stick around. It's going to be great. The main thing we're talking about with you today, Alex, is the 5 go-to progressions for Worship Keys players.
That's right.
So with this, it can be very nuanced. There are literally dozens, probably hundreds of combinations of progressions and play out there. And we're not talking about jazz today. We're not talking about gospel stuff, all the extensions that come with the 9, 11, 13s. We're talking about some basic stuff today. So if you are a beginner or maybe intermediate and you're like, hey, I want to play keys for my church, I want to know and build up some of these progressions that are common progressions for the church world, this episode is for you. If you want to learn more about Alex, maybe you've seen her on social media and you want to know a little bit about her life too, even some more personal questions here at the beginning. This episode's for you. But Alex on the keys is with a Z.
With a Z.
Is your Instagram handle.
Yes.
And maybe you're inspiring me. I wonder if we should change the Worship Keys to be like Worship Keys with a Z.
You totally should.
It's very edgy.
It is very edgy.
But tell us a little bit about what you're doing on Instagram. You have some subscribers there that are really learning from you. Tell us a little bit about your platform and what you're aiming to do with that.
Yeah, so when I started this thing, I didn't think it would be what it is now for sure, but I knew that I wanted to help people. I used to teach piano when I was younger and just really didn't have the time, especially like with college and jobs and all that good stuff. I love worship, obviously, and I wanted to start capturing that, but I realized it was a really good opportunity to start teaching some people some things. And so that's just what I did. I told them what I did, and they ate it up and loved it. But I just remember when I was learning worship when I was younger, I started at about maybe 10 or 11, maybe a little younger, I'm not sure. But something like this would have been so helpful for me. And at that point, social media just wasn't what it is today. And so in thinking about that, I was like, if there's a little me, like a little Alex out there that's, man, I really wish I could figure this stuff out. I wanted to be that person. I wanted to help them. So that's awesome. That's the journey.
That is great. You live in Georgia now. Your dad's the pastor, and your mom's in a connections pastor too.
Yep.
So y'all are basically running the church over there.
Yes.
But
yes.
And you're doing the music on stage.
Yes.
Helping direct it, arranging it, playing that kind of thing. Tell us a little bit. For one, you went to Toccoa Falls.
Yes.
College. Toccoa College.
Yep.
My parents actually went to Toccoa. Great area, beautiful area. What did you study there?
Communications, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You would think music major, but I just, I love to talk, so I just decided to major in
your
talking.
Degree today, communicating right here.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, man.
That's awesome. That's great. Yeah, I have a communications major degree as well, so I understand it. Hey,
Twinsies.
Communications. Here we go.
Unite.
But yeah, no, we're super excited to have you on, Alex, just to share some more tips for keys players. So at your church in Georgia, what's the name of your church?
The Point Church.
The Point Church.
With an E, Point. Pointe. We had to be special.
Just like Alex on the,
the
keys with a Z.
The Z, yeah.
Very nice. And tell us about your role there.
So I actually, the beginning of this May here, I've been serving on the worship team for it's been around 10 years, and I was in the youth worship band before that. So I've been at that church for a very long time. But just like this May became part-time music staff. There's 4 of us now, but we have our worship pastor and then another full-time guy that's like half in the music, half in the youth band music, all of that to say. I'm part-time, but my main job is with choir. So plunking out all the harmony parts.
Yeah.
I'm over that week's worship set. So I do that, pick the keys, arrange stuff. It's a random job, just whatever's needed. But that's the biggest thing is just making sure all those harmony parts are locked in. And yeah.
That's great.
So.
And you're a vocalist, obviously.
Yeah, I don't sing a lot, but yes,
Awesome.
I am vocalist. But mainly keys, drums, bass now, whatever isn't he? The tambourine.
Yeah, you kill it on the drums.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah, there's a good bit of clips of her playing drums on her social media. You guys can check that out too. But you're on the keys, you're on the drums, you play guitar, so you're well versed in all things music. You understand the overall whole picture of things.
Yes.
Which is important to do.
It is.
And I think many keys players were almost kind of like a producer mindset. We kind of have to be arranging, trying to fit in where we need to fit in. I love your reel about being a white girl and playing Eddie James music. Do you enjoy playing gospel stuff as well?
I do. I like to pretend like I can play gospel, and I really, I don't know that I can very much. I feel like I have the feel for it, but just not the theoretical knowledge yet. But I do. I love some gospel. And so when it's my weeks, especially with choir, I like to throw something in there. So, yeah, it's fun.
That's fun. I see you on that. Now, do you play a Nord?
I feel like I have the feel for it, but just not the theoretical knowledge yet. But I do. I love some gospel. So when it's my weeks, especially with choir, I like to throw something in there. So, yeah, it's fun.
That's fun. I see you on that. Now, do you play a Nord?
I do. Yeah.
We love the Nord here. It's great. We don't have a Nord in front of us today. We do have a Juno DS from Roland, which is a pretty good standard keyboard, especially if you're using it as a MIDI controller where you can use it within software and good sounds. I don't want to say the sounds in here are bad, but they're probably they're nowhere close to what the Nord can offer.
Yeah, where the Nord is, the Lord is.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So we have a keyboard here so that Alex can actually demonstrate some of these go-to progressions, but we're going to go over some of these 5 go-to progressions that as a beginner keys player, you should probably know these progressions, and maybe you already do know some of these, but we can't oversimplify this enough, I guess, at the beginning, because you do have to get the basics before you can go off and do all the other things, all the other fun things. And sometimes we do get a little complex here, so we're just backtracking a little bit today. Going back to the basics of this, 5 go-to progressions. So I'm going to go ahead and intro us here, Alex.
Let's do it.
And then we'll let her take this away here in just a second, and so y'all can stop hearing me talk. But 5 go-to progressions. So the first one, 5, 6, 4, 1. So again, when we say these numbers, national number system, every scale, 7 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, then you're back at 1 when you're playing the diatonic scale, right? We all learned that probably on the keys playing the C scale, right? That's the national number system. You can make up major, minor chords with that, major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. So those numbers correlate with those chords, right? And then you can have extensions with that, the dominant 7, major 7s, the 2s, the 4s, the suspensions. Then
it's
get
endless.
Endless, yeah, 9, 11, 13s. But anyway, that's what we're referring to when we say the numbers. So when we do say a 5, 6, 4, 1, we're referring to. Then another go-to progression is 4, 1, 5, 6. Another one is like a standard walk-down progression, 1, 6, 5, 4, or the 1, 6, 4, 5, right? We'll talk about that. There's different ways to get to the 1 to the 6. You can use the 5 over the 7, that kind of thing. She'll talk about this here in a minute. Another common one, the fourth one, is like a 4 to the 5 to the 6, or in reverse, 6, 5, 1 over 3 to the 4. And then another walk up, maybe start on the 2, 2, 1 over 3 to the 4. And she's going to walk us through all of these 5 common go-to progressions for worship keys players in modern worship. I have to say all that. It's a big descriptor, but because obviously it's debatable what the most common ones are. But the most common, obviously, if you're just kind of starting something, is a 1 to the 4. Just a 1 to the 4, 1 to the 4, 1 to the 4. You can even just play open fifths in the right hand, just move a little bit of the bass, that 1 to the 4, 1 to the 4, with some pads there. But beyond that, these are your other most basic, but great 5 go-to progressions. Honestly, if you know these 5, you can pretty much play any worship song out there. Would you agree?
I would agree. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm going to just let you take it away, Alex, and teach us your ways.
Okay, guys, your first go-to progression is going to be a 5, 6, a 4, 1, and we are in the key of C to make it easy for everybody. So I'm going to play these in the root position first, starting with that G, that's your 5. Now, if you still play like that, you really need to keep listening, because I have not played like that in probably like 10 years, but we're going to get you better, okay? So, actually, if that song sounded familiar, this is Your Promises Are Yes and Amen, that little part in that song. I'll sing it for you. All your promises are yes and amen. Sounds super familiar. And guys, all of these chord progressions that we're going to talk about are actually just pretty much little parts of the song. Any CCM song, that is. But what I want to do for you now, we're going to talk a little bit, just a very tiny bit about inversions as well, which you do need to know. And I've talked about this to my subscribers before. We played in that root position, but I'm going to show you a little bit of how I play it. So that technically, that's a second inversion, and all of these that I'm playing, aside from that F, are inversions. Super important. And when you're playing behind a pastor, what you don't want to do is have to jump all over the keys to find the chord. Because if you're anything like me, I like to listen to what he's saying. That's also super important because you want to follow him and figure out kind of where he's going with things. But anyways, that first chord progression, that 5, 6, 4, 1. Now there's little things I like to do called embellishments. Like little rolls. It adds just some flavor, behind the pastor. Depending on what he's doing, depending on what he's saying, you're not going to want to play in like a super straight tempo, but you're going to want to follow some kind of progression that's going to help you out. But those embellishments kind of give you a little room. It makes it super pretty, and it makes you sound like you've been playing piano for 825 years. Not that part, though. There's also times I play in intervals, like thirds, fourths, fifths, and just for those who aren't familiar, a third is pretty self-explanatory. It's just 3 notes away from each other. So this would be a third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. Those are all throughout chords. But there's times like you can literally play 2 notes. And it gets the point across. It gets the job done. But it's still super beautiful. And that's also another thing that I've talked about to my subscribers. So, guys, that was your 5, 6, 4, 1. And when you learn it in the key of C, make sure you're learning it in every single key. Do not use that transpose button, okay? Don't use the transpose button. That's it. Let's move on. All right, we're moving on up, guys, to the key of D. This is your second go-to progression, and it's a 4, 1, 5, 6. Now, this is probably like my second or third favorite. Still really good. And if you want a song to kind of couple with this to make it make a little sense in your head, yes, I will. I believe it's Vertical Worship. That's kind of the general song we're playing here. We've learned root chords. I'm just going to be done with those, by the way. But you'll still kind of get the idea. That's your 1. That's that D. We're going up to the 5 with the A. And that 6 minor, which is a B. Now, something that I love to do, especially if you're playing behind a pastor, we talked a little bit about kind of expanding the tempo. I don't really follow much of a tempo, but I do follow that progression. But what I like to do sometimes, especially if it's an altar song, there's a lot of times, actually, every time I get up and play, I play in the key of whatever the altar song is. But there's times I'll play the actual altar song, just a bit of an expanded tempo, kind of make your own tempo as you go. But I love to play the melody as an embellishment. It kind of gets you on a good track of what I mean when I say how to embellish a song. So let's take the melody of Yes, I Will. I'm going to play it this time and not sing it so I don't hurt your eardrums. This is a good way to think about it as well. If you think about a vocal ad-libbing, it's the same as a piano player playing a fill, like something like that. I can't do all those vocally. But if you think about all those fun things that they do, that's basically what embellishing is on the keys. And so when I play, I think about, would this sound good if someone sang it? And so when you start getting used to singing, it's like singing with your fingers. When you start getting used to that, embellishing, filling, being creative on the keys begins to make a little more sense. You know, it's not just random notes that you're playing, although it can be described like that. But they all kind of have a rhyme and a reason, but it's your rhyme and your reason. The most important thing, too, following a progression is great, but what you don't want to do is get stuck in a tempo, get stuck playing the same chords the whole time. Although the focus is on the pastor, you really want to make sure that you're playing tastefully, playing creatively, in a way that's not taking away from what the pastor's saying, but also in a way that is supportive of what he's saying. And the way that you voice chords, the way that you're playing, is just super important. But that is your 4-1-5-6. It builds a lot of momentum. It's really great. Just don't be afraid to embellish a little bit. Do a little fun stuff.
I love this, Alex. I gotta butt in. I'm off camera here, but so you did this little extra thing right before you went back to the 4. Can you tell everyone what you did? You didn't even know you did it because it's a habit. There's these little pickup chords, right? These little subtle.
Oh, I probably did do it, didn't I?
1/3 is what it is. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I do these a lot. Even like, walkups, which we're not talking about gospel today because I'm not qualified for that. But that 1/3 is just a nice little transition chord that gets you to the 4 chord. But to me, the way it's voiced kind of gives a different feeling instead of that 1 chord. That 1 chord is a resolve. It feels really nice. I normally play those when he is like landing a point. And so it's very settling. But that 1/3 has a little bit of a hopeful feel. And so all these chords that I'm playing, they kind of give off different vibes. They all give off vibes, especially when they're coupled with each other. But that 1/3, it's hopeful, but it also kind of begs for a resolve as well. Maybe not a 1 resolve, but 4 can also be a resolve. But in the same breath, too, it doesn't feel entirely resolved. It's a little bit settling. It's a little bit, you're anticipating for more. And so all these chords, these little transition chords, whatever it is, even the 5/7, very hopeful, victorious feeling. It begs you for the 1, and that settles it. So
another thing to add there, you could, instead of the 4-1-5-6, to get back from the 6 to the 4, you could do that 1/3, or you could just do the 5 to get down back to the 4. So like, yeah. Yeah, you just walk it back down to get back down too. So just those little subtle things, wanted to make sure everyone knew that. But that was awesome, Alex.
Okay, we're moving on up, but this is just a baby step this time. This is like a little bitty step stool. It's not just a stair. We're going up to E flat. This is your 3rd go-to progression. This is arguably one of my favorites because, well, it's one of the easiest that you can do. This is just a straight up walk down of chords. You start at the 1, you hit the 6-5-4. Now, sometimes I'll interchange that 4 and 5, but it still kind of has that same vibe, that same feeling. So let's get into it. We're in E flat. I believe I said that already. Now, there's lots of songs. Now, you think of these first progressions that we've hit in the beginning, the 1-5-6-4, 1-4-6-5. I mean, they're going back and forth, and those are normally like your very declarative, you're very powerful. These are your openers. This is our God, yeah, and you're really into it. Now, this walk down progression, you'll find a lot in these slower songs. A lot of the times, they're pretty simple songs. Something like He Loves Us, or How He Loves. 6 minor here. He loves us. Simple words, but still so powerful. And that walk down, it's simple, but gosh, it's just so good. You think about that. I even think about, what's that other? I Trust in God. That's one of the newest ones. That's a huge hit. I trust in God. Again on that one. My save. Now, let me insert something before I start singing this. You're probably, like, at that point, you're thinking she needs to hit that 5/7. There's got to be like a little mini walk down right there. But with How He Loves, you can get away with just going straight from the 1 to the 6 to the 5 to the 4, and there's not really a transition chord in there. I'm going to tell you why I think that is so. If you listen to that melody, I trust in God, and listen to the timing of it. My save, right here, Savior. That melody is hitting where that transition chord would be. And I feel like there's a lot of songs, sometimes you can play them straight. Sometimes the vocal melody is just very simple. It's hitting on the top of those beats. But this one just, I don't know. Some songs just feel like you got to hit that 5/7, and that's one of them. Let's keep moving on. Who will never, again with the walk down, never fail. Now in the verses, it just stays on that 4. But I'm gonna tell you something. We're gonna talk about some walk-ups that start with a 2 minor. And trust in God, it goes down to that 2 minor, and it's such a beautiful feel. Fail. With the walk down, that's your 1/3. He will never fail. And it goes back to that 4. So pretty. And there's not a ton of songs that do that. But the way that they voiced this song, just stunning. But I love those walk downs. Now, we were talking about how you can kind of interchange the 4 and 5, and I'm going to sing you a song that you probably heard. If you're my age, you heard it when you were 5 years old, but it is still being sung in churches all around. $5 if you can guess it before. And you know what? I'm gonna play the progression. We're gonna give you a little test. I bet some of you just guessed it right there. How great is our God? It's a classic, but they take that 5 and 4 and they switch it up. So starting on that 1, how great is our God. They walk it down to, sing with me, how great is our God. I'm gonna stop right there just for 2 seconds. I played something there that I very often play with pretty much any chord, but there's a way that I voice my minors to where it kind of incorporates a 6th, and it's technically the 5 chord in the key. So, when you're playing that minor, my favorite way to play it is this 2, 3, 5 right here. And there's times where I'll go between 6th intervals right here. It kind of adds a little tension. Anyways, let's keep moving on. And I'll sing, that's the 5, how great. And then back up to that 5 to finish it off. How great is our God. And that was a sus right there. I love to do that. It creates a little bit more tension when you're going into, whether it's you're going into the bridge right there, name above all names, or maybe you're going back into a verse. That sus kind of gives it a little movement, gives it a little feeling instead of just hanging on that 1. There's little things like that, little tricks that you can do to kind of flavor up your playing. But we were talking about trusting God. It goes down to that 2 minor, and that's going to bridge us into my number 1 top fave thing to play behind the pastor, which is walk-ups. Now, the reality of these is that no matter what you play on the keys, it evokes an emotion. It just depends on whatever emotion that you are maybe not trying to evoke, but you're kind of matching with the pastor and the message that he's presenting. If it's a very serious point and you're just on a 1 chord and you're rocking back and forth, to me, that doesn't match. But, if he's talking about how grace can pick you up whenever you're down. Grace saves us from the pit. It picks us up. It finds us when we're lost. Something like that, that 2 minor, to me evokes, I was lost and I was bound. I was blind, but you walked us up, but now I see. Deaf ears hear. It really just depends on whatever point that your pastor's making. But what you want to do, and honestly, what I think and what I would consider being a good steward of your talent is not just playing to play, but making sure that I've said it matches the pastor, but that you're also conveying the message that the Lord has put on the pastor's heart. It becomes your heart too. And so, there's a lot of times where for years I was thinking, keys are just not that important. We get buried in the mix, whatever. But it's a lot more important than I think we may even realize. I mean, we have, there's power. There's power in what we play. Anyways, so let's talk about these walk-ups, okay? So anytime you start on a minor, to me, it's kind of it's a dissonant feeling, kind of unsettling. Maybe not entirely unsettling, but just icky's really the only word I can think. It begs resolve, okay? And you can resolve on a 1, but what I love to do is I love to resolve or walk up 1/3 and resolve on that 4. Little tidbit. When I'm on that 4, after I've done a walk up, I like to hit these 3 notes. And that's a walk down, which is technically 1, 7, 6. And you can throw in a 5 in there if you want to. But to me, I just love the way it sounds. It finishes it off. Not entirely, because that one's going to seal it. But it's rest right there. Now, another walk down that I love to, or a walk up that I love to play, you're already on that 4. If you want to keep going, you go up to that 5 and then hit that 6. And that's normally when he's driving home a very serious point, but that point hasn't closed just yet. And there's a lot of times, guys, I told you to kind of expand the tempo and just play how you feel, but with these walk-ups and walk-downs and whatever, there are times I'll let a chord sit for like a solid 30 seconds, and I'll just let that pad carry, especially if it's a super serious point and he just wants to let it rest. I mean, he's going to talk he's not going to let 30 seconds go by without saying something, the pastor. But with us, if he's really driving home a point and every single word he's saying needs to be heard, that pad carrying over what you've played, there's a lot to be said for the space that you're creating with what he's saying. Anyways, so that 4, 5, 6 walk up, I love it. And guys, I actually shared this with my subscribers. This is just a little juicy chord voicing I wanted to show you. Super easy. It goes with a lot of chords. And if you're in the key of E, it's a 7-1-5. I've already said it, but I'm going to play it with you with a 4, 5, and 6 and show you kind of how it sounds.
E flat, right? E flat, right?
Yeah, E flat. Did I say E?
Yeah, you said
E
I was
flat.
like, making sure.
E flat. Kind of give it a little movement. You can play each a little differently. Anyways, that was just a little tip. Now, there's times where maybe you want to do some walk downs. Those are really nice too. I like to start on minors with those serious points. I mean, we all know altars, just kind of where everything's coming to a head. And you want to walk it down. This is when he's driven home the point. You found the pinnacle of what he's saying. Sometimes I add like a little embellishment, a little higher, kind of adds a little pizzazz, a little fun. There's walk-ups too, like a 1, 2, 3. You start on that E flat, walk up to 2 minor. That gives it a bit of a hopeful feeling, and also gives you one more chord to resolve how it feels. But guys, honestly, I mean, you don't have to play it exactly like this. You don't have to play a 1, 2, 3 to sound like you're the best thing on earth. A walk-up is any chord in the key. You start where you feel like you need to start, and that's part of creative playing too. If you play like me the whole time, you're not being used to your highest potential. Because, and this sounds crazy, and I know it's going to sound crazy, but maybe the Lord wants you to start on the 5. I know it sounds crazy. I hear myself, and I know it sounds crazy, but I'm telling you, there's some points that just need that. There's power. There's just power in how you play, and don't sell yourself short. I remember there was one time we were having our prayer time in church. It was just about 2 or 3 minutes, and we were just going to go back into the chorus of the song we sang. And the Lord put on my heart the old rugged cross. Cherish the old rugged cross. And normally I'm supposed to stay on the last song that we sing. But I felt so strongly that I needed to play that. And I was like, this is the silliest thing in the world. I don't feel like I have to play something. The Holy Spirit didn't tell me to play something. And I heard later that there was someone that was visiting the church for the first time, and her husband had a discussion. She loved contemporary, but he was like from that old Baptist denomination. He was like, I just want to go somewhere that can appreciate a good hymn. And we didn't sing any hymns in the worship set, but he heard Old Rugged Cross, and he said, that's what sold me. And that's what the wife said as well. I love how they incorporated just an old classic hymn. And she said, I felt the atmosphere shift. And for us, we both looked at each other after that moment and said, we're home. And I wish I was making this up, because it's crazy that something that small can be the deciding factor for a couple to get involved into a church. And they hadn't been in church in a very, very long time. So don't sell yourself short. If you hear the Lord telling you to do something, you do it. And that's the crux of piano playing anyways. It's not us playing, it's the Lord playing through us. So you know what? If you feel like you need to start on a 6 minor, you start on a 6 minor. I believe the Lord gives us these inclinations in our heart of where He wants us to begin, what message He wants to convey through our playing. And our playing is just as powerful as the words that the pastor's speaking. And when those come together and they couple together, guys, life change happens. And it's not because of you, and it's not because of the pastor, but it's because 2 people who are vessels of the Lord are choosing to listen to His promptings. And it's huge. It's such a huge deal, and it's good, and it's really good. So those are your walk-ups. not to get super serious.
Take us to church. I'm getting saved all over. That's good.
Oh, gosh. I mean, not to get super serious, guys, but it is super serious. It is super serious. But those are some walk-ups, walk-downs. Again, it's up to your interpretation. You play how you feel like you need to play, but that gives you kind of a general basis of some things that you need to know, some ways that you can play, a good starting point for you to take your journey on finding how you play, finding your style, finding your creative playing. And because I love you so much and because you've stuck around for this long, I am going to show you some very juicy chords that you can play on a Sunday, okay? So I'm just going to show you how I voice some of these chords. We're going to start with a 1. I love a 7, and I love adding a 2 in there too. And I love walking down to those 6ths. For that 6 minor, I've already showed you this. But I also love playing it with just a regular 5. That's a 2-3-5. Sometimes. No, not that. That's very jazzy. We don't do that. Very jazzy. We don't do that. I voice it like that as well, which is kind of the same structure, except you're just adding a 2 in there. For the 5, same thing. That D, E flat, B flat. It's just good. Sometimes I'll add a 2 in there just for funsies. But what I do love to play is I like to play it add 6. It's very somber. It's a very somber chord. And that kind of bridges over to that next chord I'm going to show you that I play for the 4 chord in the key of E flat, or honestly any key, but it's a 7. So that 6, that G in there transitions you. Watch how my fingers move right here. it bridges very well. And that 2 minor, kind of the same concept as this right here. You just move it. That's a 2, 3, 5 if you're considering the F minor right there. Sometimes I add a C. For walk-ups, either walk-up, I kind of structure it like it's a E flat major, but you just add that D in there, which is a 7, and that kind of sets you up for that right there. For a 5/7 chord, kind of the same concept here. It's a F, B flat, D, E flat, which, I'm trying to think, is structured like that. So it's technically like playing a 5 chord add 4, like a sus. And it sets you up really nicely for that one. Okay, if you want to know any more, go check my channel out. For now, all of that was free for you because I love you.
I hope y'all enjoyed this episode with Alex Smith. Alex on the keys on Instagram, keys with a Z.
With a Z.
It's so cool and edgy. I love it. Thank you for sharing with us, Alex.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
Do you have any other last words of advice to worship keys players? Maybe your younger self, any person playing in church right now, getting going. What would be the one thing you would say to them?
I actually do. The Lord was kind of dealing with my heart last week. This is a little random, but I think it's easy as musicians to kind of beat ourselves up for not being as good as, anyone you see on Instagram, being as good as even like your primary keys person. And I was beating myself up the other day. I was playing drums. Our primary drummer's out right now. And I was just thinking, man, I absolutely hate that I'm not as good as that guy. I hate that I'm not as good as all these people on Instagram, and just, tear myself to shreds. And the Lord spoke to me and he said, the only better that I want you to be is not better than them, but better than who you were yesterday. And it rocked me to my core. And I would say, hang on to that. Be better versions of who you were yesterday. Don't hold yourself to the standard of other people, because he's created you to be you to play with your own creativity. And you shine, you stand out, you be you.
On that note, we will leave the podcast with that. So thanks, Alex, and thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next week.